WWT presents Partner Spotlight.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another Partner Spotlight brought to you by WWT Presents. My name is Matt Berry. I'm the Area Vice President and Field CTO of Cyber here at Worldwide Technology. And today we'll be talking about a topic that's likely relevant for every organization that's looking to grow in meaningful ways, and that is really securing hybrid cloud models. Now, there are many reasons that cloud security should be a top priority for organizations, but especially as AI continues to proliferate, it really boils down to securing your data amid the multiple cloud and data center environments your organization is likely utilizing. And what we are discovering here at Worldwide is as businesses make progress on identifying and adopting practical AI applications, leaders are really looking for ways to either move more data to the cloud or open access to data sources across environments. Now, both of these approaches require, proper data governance and security tools in place in order to be successful. And investing in cloud security best practices, we find it really helps optimize cloud performance and enables easy access to those emerging cloud-based tools without the need to build or train their own models. So just a little bit of opening remarks there. But before we dive any deeper, I want to introduce our guests today for the panel. So I'm super excited to be joined today by Bassam Khan. Bassam is Gigamon's Vice President of Product and Technical Marketing. He has more than 20 years experience managing products and marketing for security, cloud, and collaboration technology companies. And we have Tu McClendon. Tu is a senior sales engineer with Nutanix, and he focuses on providing smooth operations of data and applications across a complex mix of cloud, edge, and core environments. So Bassam, Tu, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So first question, and maybe Tu, I'll throw this over to you for starters. So as organizations look to bolster protection of their data, the threat landscape continues to become more dispersed and complex. We're seeing hundreds of millions of new apps pop up every year. There's an explosion of data coming from the edge and a rethinking of how the cloud and data center work together. I'm curious from your perspective, what type of environment is this creating with regards to, sort of security implications?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. The short answer is the environment is actually making it more difficult for our security teams, our IT leaders, within these organizations to protect this. Because data is now accessible anywhere and everywhere because of multi-cloud, that makes the attack vector much larger and a much more difficult problem to solve. I think many of the challenges that we are seeing with concerns to securing data in a multi-cloud environment are very similar to the same challenges that we saw when we brought HCI into the market. When we're talking about some of these challenges, there's three ones that really come to mind that are similar between HCI and security around a multi-cloud environment. Number one, complexity. When we're talking about multi-cloud, what we're really talking about is multi-cloud vendors. That means, when we're talking multiple vendors, multiple solutions, multiple points of entry to protect, that increases complexity. And complexity makes it more challenging to protect that data and those access and entry points. Along with complexity is also silos. We were thinking about when we came into the HCI market, silos around data center and infrastructure. Well, those silos seem to still extend to cloud. Now we have to think about the teams that manage the infrastructure, whether it's the storage, the virtualization or the networking and the security that's wrapped around those. Usually those are separate teams in the traditional data center. Well, what about now when we're moving, those workloads to Amazon? Who's responsible for the networking configurations and security of the networks in an Amazon cloud, or maybe in a Azure cloud. So again, siloed approach further increases complexity and challenges around securing that. And then finally, the third thing that we see that persists across both of these types of infrastructures, whether it's cloud or on-prem, is really around lack of expertise and experience. Not many people have an organization that is experienced in all of the different cloud platforms, especially when we're talking about introducing AI and generative AI. That skill set is not always there. So the lack of experience really compounds and makes this environment much more challenging.
Yeah, that's great. Bassam, any thoughts from your perspective?
Um, what Tu said is spot on. Complexity of a multi-cloud environment is ever present. And as we all know, complexity is the enemy to security. When we talk to our customers, nearly 100% of our customers have a single cloud strategy. And nearly 100%, or actually 100% of our customers have a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud deployment. Just last week, we were talking to this one of the top 5 banks, and we said they had a whole lot of different people from the different silos that you mentioned, and we asked, what percentage would you estimate of your workload that you intend to migrate it has already been migrated? Was it 5%, 25%, 50%, is more? And they said you need to come up with a lower range. It's a lot less than 5% right now. What that basically says is not only are these environments complex, but they're also ever changing in complexity. So the second enemy to security after complexity is change. And that's where, from a Gigamon perspective, um, what we try to do is we try to normalize securing your workloads, securing your applications by looking at the network traffic. So all data in transit is accessed, or with our help, customers can access all data in transit. And we make sure that the security tools and even the performance monitoring tools, troubleshooting tools, they're all able to see the level of visibility that they need in order to secure better. This kind of goes back to the old language. So I said complexity is the enemy of security. So I might have a bunch of cliches thrown in here, but they're all true. So you can't see what you can't secure is another one, which is very, very important. And data at motion. So network traffic is really about, the old term was, it's the ground truth. So you can have logging, you can have other mechanisms, other telemetries coming in. One of the first things that a threat actor will do is they will try to hide their footprints, right? And one common way to do that is by turning off logging, turning down logging, altering logging. So logging is super important telemetry, but it also needs to be complemented with what's actually taking place on the network itself. So at Gigamon, we help take this highly hybridized infrastructure and normalize it with the ground truth level of visibility.
Yeah, it's great. I was just taking a couple notes as both of you were speaking, and yeah, I like your comment about how insecurity, in this industry, we're dealing with constant change, and change is one of those things that's really difficult for us as security practitioners to be able to react to, because with every change there's new opportunities for vulnerabilities and gaps and lack of visibility. So yeah, that really resonated with me. And two, what you said about dealing with silos, something that we have seen from perspective at Worldwide as we work across global service provider, public sector. We work with the big banks as well. What we're seeing is that the network is really flattening, and it's becoming more consumed by our customers and by their customers as more of a utility. Like, they just expect that access is always going to be available. And I think dealing with multiple hyperscalers and on-prem data centers, the two, going back to what you said about the silos, like the people and the process I think is something that really can get missed in all of this, because now you have all these different teams. You have the network team, you have the data security team, you have compliance, everyone who was involved from an on-prem perspective, and now as things are moving to the cloud and data and workloads are being shared across both of those very different operating models. Our customers and their customers are still expecting a very fluid experience, and that creates a lot of challenges, not only from a technical perspective, but it's all of the back end people and process and dealing with different teams and clarification of roles and responsibilities. It's definitely a world ripe with change, and that's why I guess we need some great technology solution providers like Gigamon and Nutanix to be able to help us sort that out.
If I might add to that, Matt, that you hit on this absolutely key point. It's these different personas out there and kind of the silos that we're all in that we see with our customer base. So you've got the network and the operations teams, and the other key player here are the dev teams or the app owners, right? And a lot of the budget is shifting, obviously, to that environment. Their worldview is not based on infrastructure as much as application. So it's almost, and I'm exaggerating here, it's almost like I don't care what the infrastructure is and what it's doing. I just want my app part of it to run perfectly. And when something goes wrong, they have their tools, and first people that they go to in our world is the networking. It's the network's fault. And when we talk to our network persona customers, we keep hearing that, oh, when something breaks, it's always the network's fault. And it's almost like a mean time to innocence exercise for them. But the personas are really important, and they are siloed, and there really is a strong need for a single kind of a thread that runs across the different personas, so they can all agree and they're all able to see. That's an important aspect of today's infrastructure.
Yeah, great comment. Bassam, maybe just a follow-on comment in that regard is, as these data and workloads are hopping between on-premise infrastructure, then to cloud, then back again, there's, help us understand sort of Gigamon's view on visibility and sort of that growing gap sort of between what people perceive or maybe expect versus reality, and like how is Gigamon responding to try to create more security and more visibility in the midst of sort of what we're seeing in the market today.
Yeah, so most of our customers applications are pretty dynamic in the sense that they're moving from on-premises to cloud. More often than not, parts of the application are moving from on-premises to cloud and sometimes back again. So it's becoming more and more of a hybridized deployment with multi-tiers, with a lot of hops in between. So it's lots of different places that the application can go wrong and lots of different places where the application attack surface is increased because, again, of the multi-hop nature of today's applications. What we find, Matt, a lot of times is there's a tremendous amount of focus on the application, migrating the functionality and the application themselves to the new destination, whatever it might be. There's a lot less focus, or at least an afterthought, on the ecosystem of tools that's there to secure that application, to troubleshoot when something goes wrong, ensure the optimal performance. That's an afterthought because there's so much focus. Most of the budget goes into that. So one of the advice that we give to our customers, and we have workshops, we talk about how to optimize and get the same level of security and visibility as you would from a data center application to a cloud application to a multi-cloud application. And that's really done through, again, I keep coming back to the network layer. That's one of the telemetries that's often ignored, particularly in public cloud. The cloud service providers will say, you know what, we got you covered. We have over 200 services. You've got everything you need. Network visibility has been a little bit of the, I don't like this analogy, but baby with the bathwater kind of a situation, in the sense that, yes, network performance, there's some level of SLOs and SLAs built around, but there's a lot of intelligence that's captured within that network traffic that's not being monitored. Most of our customers' ingestion is through logs, like VPC flow logs, whatever it might be, that provides a high level of data. So what we do at Gigamon is not only do we provide the packet that's streamlined to whatever the tools are consuming packets, no matter where the application is running on-prem, public cloud, multi-cloud, virtual containers, we also run what's called a deep packet inspection engine on that traffic. So we're able to extract out intelligence from that traffic, send it to tools that cannot ingest packets. Those tools might be SIMs, which are, again, just seeing logs. So what a log will say is Bassam talked to two, and two talked to Matt. What deep packet inspection will say, Bassam talked to two over SSH traffic, that's really going over SSL port, and two talk to Matt, the same format. It's a SSL, looks like it's web traffic, but there's some DHCP commands being sent, or SSH commands being sent. So that level of depth of visibility is critical for ensuring security because of the types of attacks. If you look at most of the attacks, there's some level of what's called port spoofing or non-standard port use. So there are a lot of these different techniques that Gigamon provides, all of it based on this normalization of the network-based telemetry. And we make sure the tools get that telemetry in an efficient way, and also in the way they can consume it, whether it's packets or logs and metadata.
Yeah, Bassam, that was a great overview. It made a lot of sense to me too. Is there anything you'd like to add from your perspective in that area of visibility?
Sure, Matt. I think what Bassam was talking about is really kind of one of the challenges that we see when we ask about what's missing or what's needed. What Bassam talks about is a lot of organizations take a tactical view. They're very myopic. They have their tools that they're using and utilizing. And what's missing is a more holistic view, a full stack view, a more comprehensive view, if I will. And this is something that we see, especially with, different providers, different customers. They have tons of tools that they're using. And I love what you said, Matt, earlier about, the silos, because you kind of, as a layup for me, this is exactly the point that we see that's being missed, is this need for, linking security and operations together. Oftentimes we have security teams that have their tools. We have, network administrators that are focusing on the network flow. We have data administrators that are focusing on making sure the storage and the data is encrypted and protected. But we don't have sometimes, policies in place and making sure that security is everybody's responsibility, that it is a first focused approach and a holistic approach, looking at the whole stack. The data and applications need to be protected regardless of location, regardless of cloud. And to do that, you can't have a very tactical myopic approach. You have to have a view of the whole stack, the whole, suite of tools. And that has to work together with policy in place so that everybody is contributing to the security of the organization.
I like what you said there around holistic, because it sort of ties into my next question for you guys. If you could bear with me, I think some of our technology audience might appreciate the analogy, but some of my boys were watching one of the many Lord of the Rings movies last night, and in one of the scenes, you have the good guys who basically escape into this this stronghold called Helm's Deep, and the gates shut, and there's this sense of like we're inside the walled enclave, we're okay, right? And then later on in the story you find out that the bad guys found a way to sort of get in, and they're actually on the inside, and so they're not just defending against outside attacks, but the enemy is already inside their fortifications. And as we talk about holistic security, this idea that traffic is safe once it's on the network, it should be long gone. I think there's probably still some mindsets out there of like, once it's in the data center, or once it's up in a cloud service provider, it's safe. But most legacy tools, from my experience, they really fail to record that lateral traffic. And I think in recent years, we've seen that there's a growing number of breaches that are coming from inside the network. So I'm curious, what is Gigamon and Nutanix doing to help tackle that very real challenge of lack of visibility in east-west traffic and threats inside of the network, and providing visibility to them?
Happy to go first. Matt, you are spot on. If we look at most of the modern type of attacks, whether it's insider and particularly ransomware, the most recent technologies that ransomware uses, TTPs that they use, has to do with lateral movement typically across virtual environments. If you look at MGM Grand, Caesars was hit at the same time that using Black Cat tool. Those are all lateral movements. So in the case of MGM, they locked up, they went in, they came in, and it wasn't at the perimeter. Once they came in with this pretty smart SMS swap type of an attack to fool the admin's way of getting into the system. So once they were in, they were able to move laterally. They locked up about 100 plus ESXi servers, and they shut down business for over a week. That's the most common place that threat actors tend to hide in, because of the lack of visibility, the lack of traffic inspection in that segment. And not only just accessing the traffic, but a lot of the communications is encrypted. So not only accessing the traffic, but being able to decrypt the traffic and inspecting traffic in a much better way. A lot of NDRs and other tools out there have the ability to do some level of detection based on encrypted traffic, but every one of these tools function always function better when they have encrypted traffic to pattern match using their ML engines, but also decrypted traffic, particularly for the response part of NDR. When you're trying to piece back what happened 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago, whatever it might be, it's much easier to work with understanding what's actually happening inside those packets versus just getting packet header type of information. So lateral movement absolutely needs to be inspected, because that is where all of the modern attackers are operating in.
Yeah, I guess too, I'll throw it over to you for a perspective from Nutanix.
Yeah. From our perspective, just like Bassam was saying, lateral movement is absolutely crucial. This perimeter that we used to think of as being a firewall no longer exists. All of these insider threats, we've seen it. And the way that we approach it is, you need to be able to have not only visibility of lateral movement within the network traffic from a hypervisor perspective or from a VM application perspective, you need to be able to also have the ability to do microsegmentation, to have application security policies that you can put into place, the ability to have policies that if something happens, you can automatically quarantine that traffic and make sure that it doesn't infect the rest of the environment. So all of these tools are very, very important. And at Nutanix, that's part of the inclusion and capability that AHV, the hypervisor that we provide, has the ability to do. Compound that with the visibility that we get with Gigamon, and that just makes it even more powerful to be able to deep inspect those packets, like was mentioned earlier. So it's absolutely important that those capabilities are there. As a joint solution, we have those capabilities, and we definitely can prove those out.
If I can add a little bit more to that as well, too, it's spot on, and it's the deep inspection is really, really key. It is pretty hard to decrypt virtual traffic, right? Because there's resource requirements, there's TLS version 1.3, there are key management and so on. I did want to talk a little bit about this capability that we launched end of last year. And I believe others are in that space as well now, which is basically we want to make sure that all of the traffic is accessed and then decrypted. Now, having a man in the middle kind of decryption is pretty complicated when you're looking at virtual traffic, when you look at container traffic. So you want to collect some traffic from pods and nodes and be able to inspect that in a decrypted way. So what we were able to do was launch something called pre-cryption. Pre-cryption is a notion of leveraging, and this gets a little bit geeky here since you started this off, Matt, with Helm's Keep not quite as safe as they thought. So there's a service that every Linux kernel has. It's called eBPF. It's just a kernel level service, and it's designed to be kind of configurable. So the way Gigamon taps that traffic is we ask eBPF to send a copy of the traffic before it gets encrypted. So Gigamon's what's called UCT, Universal Cloud Tab, gets built into the golden image. So as workloads pop in and out of existence, eBPF just makes sure that it's sending a copy of the traffic. And the cool part here is it does it before it's encrypted. So that means that this technology supports any kind of encryption that's used, any cipher key that's used. There's no key management. So it's a really effective and efficient way of sending decrypted traffic without running the decryption function. And the reason I bring this up, again, goes back to what you mentioned, Matt, what Tu mentioned. It's in lateral movement, lateral inspection is absolutely key. And if there's one takeaway here, if you look at the current threats, that is where they operate. And the takeaway would be to make sure that you're inspecting that traffic.
Yeah, that's really good. Very interesting, the concept around pre-cryption, and I hope that our viewers will take some time to hop onto wwt.com and also to view the great resources that Gigamon has to sort of understand how that works, because it's sort of seems like a sort of the added advantage, is trying to get that visibility while dealing with more and more traffic streams that are encrypted. Maybe a follow-up question to both of you. Many of the folks who listen into these video series, they're practitioners, they're in the trenches, and they're always looking for, what are some best practices that I should be thinking about? Again, with, Bassam, like you were saying, the constant, and ever-present change. I think that, for some practitioners out there, there's like this fear that keeps them up in the middle of the night, that like, is there some new tool or new feature that I should have activated, in a policy, or as I'm configuring visibility, am I deploying my tools the right way? I'm curious, maybe from both of you, just a couple of like best practices that you're seeing in action today that security leaders should be thinking about, making sure those boxes are checked in their environments.
There are a number of best practices from Gigamon perspective. I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but it really is to inspect all data in motion, all data in transit. So that to us, to our customers, means inspecting network traffic. Anywhere from north-south, obviously, but also into east-west traffic, coming into container traffic. These are all places where the threat actors hide. Now, here's the challenge. The challenge is that accessing traffic on a physical environment is dramatically different than Nutanix, where it's much simpler, but it is different. And then when there's multi-cloud, that's quite different as well. So, for example, a Amazon Kubernetes service is going to be very different than Google Kubernetes Engine, than VPC mirroring. So these are all different types of traffic access mechanisms. What we provide to our customers is one single UCT, Universal Cloud Tab, that works across the board. It's one binary that runs everywhere, that allows our customers to be able to make sure that their tools are seeing what they need to see. So from a best practices perspective, it's the visibility that keeps everything in checks and balance. And Matt, you brought up the fact that configuration, misconfiguration, and so on. That's a very, very common scenario, because developers, that persona, runs very fast. That's their job, to break things, run again, break things, run again. Well, breaking and security aren't quite good friends, right?
Right.
And so that's where it gets, that's where a certain border level checking, some sort of boundary level checking is needed without getting in the way. And we can, they can definitely put an EDR agent or some kind of agent in their application. However, what's really, really important also is, in addition to agent, which tends to be pretty heavyweight and gets in the way of applications runs in the same memory space. What the network visibility provides is almost like this halo around that application. So as developers run fast break things, that halo is still able to report in, here's what's happening on the network. Here's the communication that's taking place.
Stu, how about over to you?
Sure. I know that this sounds simplistic, but where I would start, the best practice that we always tell our customers is have a security first approach. And what that means is the way that we demonstrate that is very simply, whatever software or tool that you are utilizing to help secure your network, there should be a full security lifecycle development process that's in place. So, for example, if you are releasing operating code for your operating system or for a hypervisor or for whatever tool it is, security should be built into that lifecycle process as you create that software, that you're making sure that you are checking it and baselining it with security requirements. On top of that, as you're supplying your software and providing that to whatever platform it is and wherever that platform exists, whether that's on premises or in the cloud, that platform should be out of the box hardened, if possible, with all of the security best practices built in. And these are best practices that we practice at Nutanix and that we help our customers and that we share with our customers. Again, like Bassam said, the ability to have code, making sure that it is updated, automated validation, and having a self-healing baseline as these security things are compromised, they're automatically healed. As things are changed, they're automatically closed. Making sure that you are covering application-centric security capabilities. So not just a platform, but looking at it from an application perspective, making sure that you are implementing application security capabilities into that solution. And obviously, making sure that your solution, one of the challenges is leveraging the robust growing security ecosystem out there, because not one solution is going to solve your problem. So your piece of the security puzzle needs to be able to be easily implemented and integrated with other best practice security tools. That's all very important. So again, kind of wrapping it up, just this holistic approach, making sure security is the focus from the very beginning. It's not a bolt-on. And then also marrying tools, tactics, teams, and process together. It's not just the tools that are going to solve the problem. You have to have, here's a simple example. Here at Nutanix, we get these annoying emails, update your password, multi-factor authentication. That's just a culture thing, a process that we have to make sure that we abide by, and everybody's responsible for that. So that's not unique to Nutanix. I'm sure you guys do it there and other organizations do it there. The point being is that it is a holistic, total, complete, 360 attack on security. It can't be just a single solution.
Yeah, great comments. Now, I want to bring up a topic that everybody wants to hear something about today, and you can probably already guess what it's going to be. It's AI, artificial intelligence. So, here at Worldwide, we are making a very large investment over the next 3 years into expanding our capabilities around AI, creating specific AI lab environments to validate software and prove out different use cases, delivering proof of concepts, workshops, a number of assessments, and helping our customers just sort of understand the AI landscape and how to apply AI capabilities and how to secure AI. A lot of that is being done through our advanced technology center. So we have 5 data centers, a presence in the cloud. And I think the last time I heard it was around $1 billion total has already been invested in the ATC. And now our CEO Jim Kavanaugh has gone on record saying, worldwide it's going to invest another 500 million over 3 years in that. So it's just a massive investment for us. We're trying to respond as quickly as we can to the demands that are coming from our customer base. I'm just curious, at whatever level you're comfortable speaking, what is your outlook, and then maybe any advice that you would have around AI security, sort of coming from your level of experience?
I'm happy to go first. Gen AI is indeed on top of all of our customers' minds and strategy and spend. And the way we look at it, there are sort of the 2 big approaches to AI. One is from a business perspective, the other one's from an operational and back office perspective for all of our customers. From a business perspective, it's how are we leveraging Gen AI for improving our business. So when we talk to our sort of big 5 consulting companies, they're using Gen AI to kind of come up with intelligent report. They usually come in, do the analysis, and they leave behind a few hundred pages of strategy reports for companies. So there's a lot of application for Gen AI on that. Another company we're talking to does tax preparation, for very large organizations, and they're using their past 130 years of tax data, so tax filings, government law changes, to train their Gen AI engine. A lot of these companies were basically waiting for OpenAI to guarantee that their training data is going to stay within their own environment, not be shared across other OpenAI customers. So that's the business side. On the back office and operations side, there's a whole lot of use of Gen AI around security and around AI ops. And just actually a couple of weeks ago, we were talking to WWT. I was in a call with Kent Noyes and Tracy Sever. And what we were talking about is one specific area around security for use of Gen AI, particularly related to privacy, data leakage, and compliance. So there are GPTs out there, which are sort of like plugins or mini chat GPTs that you can download today. And one of those you can download, it'll record our meeting right here, and it will summarize the meeting for me in OpenAI fashion, ChatGPT fashion. So I can look back, Matt and Tu and I spoke 3 weeks ago. What was the discussion? And boom, it's right there. So quite useful. However, from a compliance perspective, no good, particularly for internal meetings and other meetings that might happen, because a lot of this data can get exfiltrated. So there are a lot of concerns around privacy, around data leakage. So our view, so the play, for example, in that case, Gigamon provides is the ability to detect traffic. So I mentioned we could detect port spoofing through our deep packet inspection. One of the other things that we can do is we can identify over 3,500 applications. So what that means is we can identify to the compliance people in an organization that this traffic was some kind of a shadow IT. That's kind of the category that we're putting this particular use of Gen AI into. Shadow IT traffic could mean Dropbox traffic or box.net. There's some traffic. Is that something really bad happening? Not necessarily, but something to watch out for, to send that information to more security types of tools and DLP type of tools. So that's that. There's also P2P traffic that falls under the shadow IT bucket that we can identify. So things like BitTorrent or other types of file sharing. The third area, by the way, I should mention that's been of interest is cryptocurrency mining. So again, based on traffic pattern matching, we can say that there was crypto mining traffic about 13 different types of currency mining. So Ethereums and Bitcoins and Moneros and others. So the other category that we're getting into more and more is offering the ability to be able to detect Gen AI traffic. So is this Gen AI bad by nature? No, but it's just when somebody is using these plugins and using Gen AI, there could be some level of additional scrutiny that may be needed. Depends on the organization. If you're highly HIPAA restricted or PCI and so on, we just find our customers are much more interested in this type of communications than other type of, let's say, someone listening to Spotify at work. So there's multiple facets, and we've been working very closely with WWT on a number of these different areas.
Thanks, Bassam. I want to kind of go to a point that you mentioned very early on in the conversation about how things security constantly changing. And then here's a perfect example. Gen AI is fairly new. It's evolving. I think a lot of organizations are still trying to figure out not only how are we going to use it, but how are we going to protect ourselves from some of the things that Bassam had mentioned. I know organizations are actually um, modifying some of their policies on how they deal with how they put information out there, and how that's protected. So from what our viewpoint is that this is evolving. We are working on making sure that from a security perspective that we cover all areas. And I don't mean to like beat this horse, but again, it is this full security approach, making sure that, you know, identity protection is a very important aspect of, when it comes to Gen AI, and being able to have security measures in place to be able to manage and make sure that your identity is protected. Those people that are accessing the network, those people that are accessing information, is it being, real identity, or is that generative AI? So those are things that we really have to look at. Now, this is, to be honest with you, this is not an expertise area for me. I know we have others within our organization that can talk very much deeper to this topic. But what I would say from my interactions over the years with people dealing with security and with infrastructure and cloud, again, it is making sure that we take a bigger look of the picture of security. AI is one piece of it. Generative AI is getting a lot of noise now because it's the new thing, but it's still just another security vector that we need to make sure that we are covering.
That's great. That's great. Now, I just want to thank both of you for joining us today. I think we're just about out of time, and it seems like, man, we could probably talk for probably another hour or two on these topics. Very relevant. So, just want to thank you both for being here and for sharing your perspective. And I want to thank our viewers who are tuning in on WWT.com. If you'd like to learn more about WWT's partnership with either Gigamon or Nutanix, you can visit the partner section of the WWT.com platform. So we have a lot of great resources surrounding both partners and their portfolio of solutions and products. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions moving forward. And if you like what you watched today, you can always access our back catalog of Partner Spotlight episodes and other videos we produce that highlight emerging IT trends at wwt.com/events. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Matt.